Hey guys, Magnet here and welcome to episode 3 of How to Be a Better Starcraft Player. This episode is all about what you should be focusing on if you want to get better at Starcraft, and specifically prioritizing your macro over your strategy. Oftentimes when people ask me how they can get better at Starcraft, they ask me for what the best strategy is. I often don't know how to answer this question without sounding mean or not really giving them useful information. The root of their problem is that they think they need just a simple adjustment of strategy in order to advance several leagues, rather than needing an overhaul in what is important to success in StarCraft. Flat out, bottom line, the hard fact of this game is that having a bigger army than your opponent will be the number one reason you will win games. Strategy simply does not matter if your opponent has a bigger economy, more units, and more production facilities to fall back on if something goes wrong. After all, how can you ever expect to kill your opponent if they have more money and a stronger infrastructure than you do? Let's look at an example. We all should know that a good counter to Marines are tanks. We can see that these few tanks will wreck the small Marine army without much effort at all. This would lead people to believe that Marines are bad units and tanks are just better, but the fact of the matter is that the tank army is far more valuable. If the Marines had a similar cost to the tanks and we fought them again, we can see that the trades are about even. Like I said, we all should know that tanks are a good answer to Marines in mass numbers, but the point is that the cost of the armies will largely determine the success. We can very easily see that a larger mixed army will win fights effortlessly against a smaller one, and this is where your focus should be when you're trying to get better at the game. A bigger army just wins games. We can talk about getting big armies all we want, but what's more important is how you obtain that. There are 3 things you need to always be focusing on throughout a game. Constantly making workers until you hit a maximum point, gaining access to more resources by expanding faster, and spending your resources the instant you get them on something that will help you win fights or further your economy. Each component is reliant on both of the others, because you can make workers and expand all over the map, but this doesn't matter at all if you don't spend your money. Likewise, you can make workers and spend your money, but if you don't expand on time, your opponent will ramp up their economy faster than you will. Without doing all 3 of these important points of macro, it doesn't matter what strategy you are using, since a player that does them better should beat you every time. A couple of other important parts of macro are to make sure that all of your buildings are working at the same time. This includes upgrade buildings, all production buildings, and of course your home base. The underlying purpose of any game in StarCraft is either to find a timing where people might be vulnerable and hit them with a well-executed attack, or just to live longer than the other player, take more bases and starve their economy. Whatever you're doing, you still need to follow the 3 points of macro. The ways you can potentially progress through a game should be thoroughly planned out well before the game starts. When these plans are used in a game, we call it a build order. Any good build order inherently comes with the following label. Assuming you have good macro and can hit the timings the way they're intended, you should be in a good position throughout the game no matter who you're playing. And again, I can't overstress the importance of worker production, expanding, and spending your money. This is what really matters in StarCraft. Regardless of the build that you're using, you always need to know how to mold that build order based on what your opponent might do. We'll talk about that and much more regarding strategy in episode 4. The next video is in this playlist, and the link is in the description if you aren't watching from the playlist. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next episode.